fresh fruits and veggies are essential to good health. Fine. But for me, knowing that and eating as if I knew it are two different things. I'm a meat and potatoes guy and always have been. So I was thrilled to find out that Balance of Nature capsules concentrate 31 different fruits and vegetables with no extracts or fillers and with all those phytonutrients we need to be in top form. Balance of Nature. It's well named. To touch all the bases, what I do is to take a few of the fruit and berry capsules, the red ones in the morning, and the green veggie capsules later in the day. My body and brain never had it so good. With nutrition well balanced as nature intended, no wonder that these days I'm feeling so splendid.
Right now, Balance of Nature is offering free shipping and 35% off on any new preferred order. Call 1-800-2468-751 or go to balanceofnature.com and use discount code Chicago.
Victory, World War II in Real Time, an illustrated biography by the Associated Press commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Second World War, available wherever books are sold.
8:36. AM 560 traffic center time, and Jim.
In Crown Point, a crash involving an overturned semi on southbound I-65 at 231 cleared. There's just a bit of residual congestion. On 94 in Kenosha, a crash near 158 cleared. There is a stall northbound at 142 on the right side, and the city of Kenosha has declared a snow emergency until 8 a.m. Wednesday. Inbound Edens, your travel time to get from Lake Cook to Montrose right now is 22 minutes. Inbound Kennedy, O'Hare to downtown, 27 minutes on the Eisenhower. 390 to downtown, it's a 34-minute commute. Stevenson, 30 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Ryan from 95th to downtown, 15 minutes. That's traffic. I'm Jim Telemonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our AM 560 Weather Center. Again, a winter storm warning is in effect until 5 p.m. today. Windy, snow accumulating another inch or two. We could see 4 to 8 inches of snow. Wind totals are all piled up. High 33, cloudy, breezy, and more snow overnight, low 22. Currently 31 at O'Hare. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, and your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy and his piece, All Hail the Reopening. Jeffrey Tucker over at the American Institute for Economic Research queries whether the science has just lined up with the political timing brilliantly for lockdowner politicians like Newsom, Pritzker, and Cuomo, and that explains the reversal from positions past. Well, California, December 7th, the 7-day rolling average, 23,000 cases. January 24th, 7-day average, 25,000 plus cases. December, outdoor dining prohibited. January 24th, outdoor dining reopens. Also, we find that, per Yanan Weiss, California's emergency stay-at-home orders were lifted with 50% less ICU beds available now than they had the day he implemented the stay-at-home order. And, of course, that's the case in Chicago as well, where you have more cases, more hospitalizations than in most of the time over the last year, where the lockdowners like Pritzker and Lightfoot were pursuing lockdown policies with great enthusiasm.
Well, on the day of the inauguration, America had its highest single-day one-day death total.
Time to open.
2 days later, Washington, D.C. opens. 3 days later, Chicago.
I mean,
Don't believe what your eyes are telling you.
I mean, it can't be that all of these heroes in public office stopped being in the business of saving lives, can it?
And the CNN banner about the COVID deaths, that's gone on a daily basis, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Banging the drum of fear.
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Jeffrey Tucker, editorial director for the American Institute for Economic Research, author of The Market Loves You, Why You Should Love It Back. Jeffrey Tucker, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, so glad to be here. I'm glad we're talking about this. You know, I'm happy for the opening, for whatever excuse they're giving. I think it's about time. Just the timing is a little bit strange.
Well, right, and the reason the science and data matter, since we've been beaten over the head and neck area about it for the last decade, is because what are the bases, or what is the basis, or what are the bases on which you're making public policy? That question needs to be answered by these same people that are in full reversal at present.
Yeah, there's no science to this. It's just this is a calamity from the very beginning, from mid-March all the way up to the present, and you had a lot of political panic going on, and hundreds of thousands of businesses were crushed. You know, the CDC is now reporting a record number of deaths from drug overdose, 81,000. You know, we've never seen anything like this. Just the despair, the sadness. It's all just deeply tragic, and I think there should be hell to pay. But anyway, whatever the case, for whatever reason, since the inauguration, we're starting to see reversals all over the country.
But what we probably won't see is a reversal of the displacement that this has precipitated. People moving away from Chicago, New York, San Diego, and to places like Denver, Atlanta, Dallas, Phoenix.
Florida.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah, gigantic demographic shifts having taken place over the last year. People started to realize probably around summer that the lockdowns were going to continue. So people began to leave California, New York City, which is just a shell of its former self, I'm sorry to say. It's going to take years to repair all this damage. There's a housing boom in the country, but that's just because people are moving out and buying houses. It's
all at once.
Really, yeah, it's just really been something. And I guess what offends me most is the pretense that you see that this is all based on science. Ironically, one of the few thoroughly honest statements from any elected official in the last year came from Biden the other day, where he said that the government can't do anything about the trajectory of the virus over the coming months.
Yeah.
He could have left that qualifier about over the coming months. There's never been anything government can do about a trajectory of a virus. There's things you might be able to do individually, protect your loved ones, you know, or seek out exposure, which is a rational position for anybody in a non-vulnerable category. But there's nothing government itself can do, and I think all these lockdowns have been a complete and calamitous waste, and that will be admitted by one and all at some point. You know, not yet, but at some point, we're just going to have to admit that we really screwed up.
Is Merck admitting as much? Merck announcing that it is discontinuing its pursuit of a vaccine and is focusing instead on two investigational medicines that would be therapeutics for COVID-19, seeming to indicate that it's just more effective to come up with a therapeutic than it is to spend time trying to replicate what is already on the market.
You'd think we would have learned that during the AIDS crisis. You know, therapeutics are the best way to deal with viruses. We just got to figure out how the viruses work and put the medical community to work with individuals and try to mitigate its severe effects as much as possible. Instead, we went full vaccine, and I think in the long run, what we're going to find is the therapeutics are the way to go. But I'm not a medical doctor.
Well,
I do know that however you're going to deal with a new pathogen, it really does come down to the medical community and individuals, and it's not really something that politicians can deal with. And that's why, in the course of the 20th century, we never pursued lockdowns for any previous pathogen, ever. And some of them were more dangerous than COVID on a global basis. So, the Asian flu of 57-58 was 6 times as deadly as COVID-19 when you look at the mortality figures for the globe.
mm-hmm.
A really deadly pathogen. There were no closures, and that was for a reason. Public health back in those days was wise. They didn't want the public to panic. They didn't want lives being ruined. They didn't want society disrupted. because a well-functioning society is the best way you get a disease under control. And people used to know that.
This is Scott Shelby here, Jeff. I jumped on in March of last year, and I downloaded about 5 or 6 white papers written about pandemics when we weren't in a pandemic, right? So there was no panic written into the papers, and they all had in their top 3 things not to do was lockdowns. Yep. And I think the country panicked. They saw China go into lockdown. Well, we must do whatever China does, so we had to go through a lockdown. But to that point, I think you're exactly right about the therapeutics. But the problem is that some of our doctors weren't allowed to give out the therapeutics. They said they shut them down. And we went, you're right, full vaccine. But the therapeutics that we shut down earlier in the year are now being widely prescribed. I mean, it's just you couldn't write a paper about how not to do something better.
Right. So we had this central plan. We did the same thing with hospitals. We had governors all over the country, and really it was ordered by the CDC, reserving medical care for just COVID. And for months and months and months, there were no patients arriving. So the hospitals all over the country were completely empty. Meanwhile, people are missing cancer screenings and routine surgeries and all kinds of things. Dentistry, over the course of the summer, collapsed 70%. So people weren't even able to go to the dentist. I mean, the whole thing is astonishing. You think,
well, and we've seen now too. I mean, this is underreported. We've seen actually revisions down in life expectancy. And again, more significantly with minority populations, and it's in part, yes, because of deaths of despair, but it's also in part because of the treatments that people should have been getting that they weren't getting.
That's right, and the government's terrified the population. People were even afraid to go to the hospital, and that's one of the reasons for the increase of hospitalizations over the winter, was that people could finally get access to medical care without being afraid. So, I mean, there's so much history that has to be written here, and
we're going to be judged harshly. We're going to be judged very harshly, I think.
Very harshly, and there's an item that just came out this morning. It turns out Dr. Fauci, who's been the major advocate of lockdown, media darling, is the highest paid employee in the entire federal government. He gets $417,600 a year,
right,
to spend all of his time on television arguing that your business needs to be shut down and that that you should stay indoors and mask.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Jeff, he tells us what we need to do when he believes we could accept what he has to say. He parcels it out because he doesn't tell us the whole truth. But now here's the good news. He's unshackled to tell us just what the science says. He doesn't have to worry about the Trump administration trying to massage his views anymore. So we should be getting a better advice and counsel from Dr. Fauci going forward, don't you think?
Well, he doesn't read the science. He's too busy going on television. So, you read the science, I read the science. There's papers coming out every day, and he doesn't have time to read them. He doesn't bother. He just wings it. He's a media star, and that's about it. And people who worked with him at the White House said this about him. He was completely clueless about all the latest research. Never cared. He had his line from the very beginning, and he stuck with it.
Well, I mean, it's almost like we're talking about politician here because he's behaved like one. That you just ignore the track record, and you go back to Tony Fauci and the pronouncements he made about AIDS initially in the 80s, where he was about as wrong as a medical professional can be, a public health professional, where he believed that AIDS could be transmitted casually, and he played politics with AIDS because he didn't want to be seen as zeroing in on the gay community in terms of the most impacted community.
Yeah, and he was personally responsible for the toilet seat panic all over the country. People are afraid to use the bathroom in public spaces. They're afraid they're going to get AIDS from. So yeah, he's been so destructive his entire career, but nothing compares to what he's done this year. And
and he's been rewarded for it, and he's been rewarded handsomely for it. Crime pays. Crime does pay.
Well, we're opening up now, and I'm glad to hear the good news about Chicago, by the way, about time. But there's still so much work to do to try to figure out what exactly happened and why did we do this, and who should we blame, and it's going to take years to sort all this
But there's also still a lot of debates to be had and policies in the offing. I know the story about the Miami Heat using coronavirus sniffing dogs to screen fans at games. You're talking about saliva tests to return to work. Or you're talking about lanyards on kids around kids going back to school. Did the parent check you, or did a school nurse check you? And what else will be included, perhaps, in terms of a data card on individuals in a school or in a business setting? I mean, there's still a lot of what is going to be the new normal post-COVID conversations to be had, it seems.
Yeah, we've got to figure this out. The track and trace scandal, that was always the answer over the last 10 months. We have to track and trace. You can't do that for a virus that's so widespread and for most people entirely mild. That was the scandal, but it's become an excuse for the surveillance state. At some point, this is why the work you're doing is so important. People need to stop being manipulated by politicians, and get scientific, get calm, get rational, and then we will stop being manipulated by these people.
Well, we have to teach people that somebody else doesn't always know better.
Yeah, and this is my own question. It's like, why did this happen to us? And I think, I wrote a whole book called Liberty Lockdown where I try to explore this. But I think one of the things I'm starting to realize is that there really was a tremendous amount of public panic here in the spring. And the politicians used that panic to just practice invading our liberty and property and lives. And they enjoyed it. It was a real kick for them. And one of the reasons I think we're starting to see the opening now is that people are sick of it. They're just really fed up with it, and the politicians are starting to worry. I mean, the California case is a good one because Newsom there is facing a serious recall effort. Right. And he's discovered that, maybe people need to have their rights back, take their own risks. So once the politicians get scared of the people, then we're going to start to see the openings really accelerate.
We're going to see virus number 865 we have to worry about now, right? I mean, how high are we going to go on the numbers?
Well, and I'm also glad to see the media panic starting to dial back a little bit. The New York Times is now running a counter on their front page showing that new cases are down 31% in the last 14 days, and deaths are down, and so this is the New York Times. I blame for a lot of the panic that happened early on. They really deliberately whipped it up and called for governments to go medieval on us and lock us in our homes and that sort of thing. So it's good to see the New York Times dialing it back, and I know that their motives are partially political, if not entirely so. I'm just glad to see people getting their rights back. We should never let it happen again. And that's another thing we have to focus on in the future is how do we prevent this?
Well, right. And to me, the only way that you prevent this from happening again is you have to see political consequences be visited upon people, maybe in some cases legal as well. But you have to have people that were proponents and implementers of these lockdown policies removed from office. Otherwise, their lesson will be, you just got to sort of, feel out where the public is. You whip as much frenzy as you can. You seize on that to extend your power as much as you can. But then you have to throttle back at a certain point just to survive when, as you say, the natives get restless. But if there's nobody who loses their office over this, if Andrew Cuomo, St. Andrew of COVID-19, continues to get book deals, then this will happen again because there will have been no political consequences paid.
And there will be a devastating impact on business investment. I mean, why would you start a restaurant? Why would you invest in chain restaurants at all? Why would you start a new venue for concerts? Why would you go into music if you're going to get your job canceled for a full year? What's going to happen to the arts? Why would you start a concert venue? Why would you donate to a symphony if the symphony is just going to be shut down? We need ironclad promises in the future that this cannot happen ever again, and not just promises. We need some kind of mechanism to make sure that it doesn't happen. One of the things that really failed us in 2020 was the court system. Where were the courts? Where was the Constitution? Where was the Bill of Rights?
Where were the legislatures? Where are the legislative branches?
These emergency edicts are just outrageous. The legislatures need to rein in the government. We need government to be locked down, not the people.
Huh. There's a great statement. Jeffrey Tucker, editorial director for the American Institute for Economic Research. The book, The Market Loves You, Why You Should Love It Back. Jeffrey, thanks for joining us as always.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And you join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
My Dad and I's faith-focused mortgage team has been telling our story to the best radio audiences across the country for a while now. We've gotten to take care of thousands of families, and these are some messages some of those families were nice enough to leave with their radio station.
I thought, you know what, I'm going to give Ryan a call just to see if it makes sense. Interest rates had fallen so drastically that we were able to save hundreds of additional dollars off of our mortgage. So it's been such a blessing to our family in this time of when the pandemic has hit us hard. And it just was a reminder that God can work in little ways, even like a refi.